Welcome to the Fierce and Fit Mentor Podcast. I'm your host, Clarice Yao, a holistic health coach dedicated to helping women over 40 achieve their fittest, fiercest selves. Each week, we'll dive deep into the unique challenges of menopause, including belly fat, weight gain, muscle building, hormonal imbalances, and more. These episodes are recorded live from my free Facebook group, Fierce Women Sculpting Powerful Bodies and Champion Mindsets. Be sure to check the link in the show notes to join our incredible community and access free content, challenges, and resources designed just for you. So I'm going to dive into it. So today what we're going to talk about here is we're actually going to talk about the hormone estrogen, which is going to be very crucial for everyone here, all the women who are, in menopause, perimenopause. This is like the crucial hormone. And we're going to talk about what actually estrogen is and what it's responsible for, as well as the 3 types of estrogen I talked about in my digest. If you didn't read the article on my digest, you could put digest below because it will help you in understanding better what I'm talking about today, E1, E2, E3. So if you haven't read that, put digest below. And we are then going to talk about the menopause shift. So what happens during menopause that causes a shift in the types of estrogen in your body is not just the loss of estrogen, but it's the shift in estrogen. This is going to be some mind-blowing moments for you. And those of you who are watching or have learned from me for a long time, you're going to learn something new in today's live about estrogen and why it's really important to understand that. As well, we are going to talk about once the shifts in estrogen and the types of estrogen, what that's going to look like in terms of belly fat, and how that influences not only belly fat, but also the muscle loss that comes with menopause. So we're going to talk about 2 prongs today about belly fat as well as muscle loss, okay, with regards to estrogen. We're going to talk also about estrogen and the metabolic loop, okay? So you want to stay tuned for this and how there is a feedback loop that occurs with estrogen in your body as you are entering perimenopause, menopause, and post-menopause. And then finally, I am going to talk about HRT, which is hormone replacement therapy, because a lot of women will listen to this live. They are going to likely ask me, should I go on estrogen then? Because I'm going to talk so much about estrogen, but I'm going to talk about why you want to consider HRT or why you may not want to consider HRT, because there's a lot of complications involved with it. So you want to stay tuned for that near the end. And then at the very end, we are going to talk about action steps to this, okay? Now, if you are the 11 eyeballs on here, if you are listening, watching, you see me, and you know other friends want to learn about estrogen, take the link from the top. There's a little link icon, and try to send it to your friends to come into our community. Now, they do have to be a part of our community, but they can always register to get into the community because it's free. So you want to send that link to somebody or tell them to come and watch this live. This is going to be very intriguing because obviously I've done a lot of lives on hormones, on insulin, on cortisol. Oshone did cortisol, but I haven't done one specifically on the breakdown of estrogen, okay? So let's actually start with this, okay, is that most women are told that after 40, their hormones decline, and that's why they start to gain weight. But what I want you to start to think about is that your hormones don't just decline, they change form. And this is what I want you to understand today, is that it's not just about the declining of hormones, but is how it's changing form in your body, okay? So one of the biggest shifts with the hormones shifting forms in your body is what you will see as a result of belly fat, loss of muscle, changes in energy, and a metabolism that feels like it's not working for you. So let's first talk about estrogen, okay? What is estrogen kind of responsible for, okay? So estrogen is not just the female hormone, right? Like we think of estrogen as like the hormone that makes us female, which is true, and that we can have, the body parts that we have, and to have pregnancy, all of that. But estrogen is also responsible for a number of areas in our body, which is very important to understand, okay? So it is involved in metabolism, in fat storage, in insulin sensitivity, in your muscle maintenance, in your brain function, and in your bone health. How does estrogen kind of work in these ways? It's really through two ways. Okay, estrogen binds to receptors in your muscles, your brain, and your fat and bone areas. When estrogen attaches to these receptor sites, it triggers specific effects in the body. Okay, so this is why estrogen is like the powerhouse. When you're young, it helps you with strong metabolism, and it helps you with fat metabolism. It attaches to your cells so that your body can have better insulin control. So one of the ways estrogen really modulates the things in your body is receptor binding. Okay, so estrogen is very powerful in all those areas I mentioned: metabolism, fat storage, insulin sensitivity, muscle maintenance, brain function, and bone health. Okay, but in addition, estrogen itself also interacts with hormones. So it does two things: it binds to receptors and it interacts with hormones. And this interaction with hormones, which is what makes it even more complicated, in that, I mean, complicated in a good way when you have the right types of estrogen. It interacts with other hormones like insulin, cortisol, and growth hormones, so that you can actually, like, for example, have better muscle growth when you have more proper estrogen in your body. Or it binds to kind of interacts better with the insulin hormone or thyroid hormone, so you have better metabolism in your younger years, in your 20s and 30s, maybe even early 40s, before all of that starts to change. Okay, so estrogen has a direct signaling in the receptors of the cells, as well as the way it interacts with the hormones coming in contact. Okay, so when estrogen changes, your entire system changes. This is why this is so crucial for so many women, that you cannot avoid this. I'm going to talk about it because there are even women who take HRT cannot avoid it. When estrogen changes, your entire system completely changes in your body. And this is the first thing I want you to understand. Once estrogen changes in your body, everything that I named off starts to change. That's why you guys all notice, oh, I have a lot of belly fat, or increasing width in my midsection. I cannot build muscle as well. My energy starts to drop. I have brain fog. I have less better sleep. I have blah, 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 right? This all the estrogen dropping shifts the entire system. So we're going to now go to the three types of estrogen. Okay, the first estrogen I'm going to talk about is estradiol, which is E2. Now, E2 is your most metabolically powerful active estrogen. This is the main estrogen that is produced in your ovaries. Okay, so this is the estrogen you want. You want E2. You want estradiol. Okay, when you have more E2, it will support muscle protein synthesis, insulin sensitivity. It will redistribute fat properly for you, meaning, to your breasts, to your hips, to your glutes, all the nice areas that make you look very feminine, and away from your belly, right? We want that. We want the estradiol, the E2, to go to the right places and away from the belly. Okay, and E2 supports energy and recovery. So this estrogen E2 is the estrogen that makes you feel like yourself. It is the hormone E2 that makes you feel like the woman, like, oh, like in all your glory. Okay, if you got the E2 going, you are the woman in all your glory. Okay, so you want more of this, but I'm going to talk about what happens in the shift with E2. Now, there's another type of estrogen, and that is E1. Now, E1 is called estrone. Okay, estrone. Now, estrone is a fat-derived estrogen, meaning it is produced in your fat tissues via aromatization. Now, I've spoken about aromatization, but just to review, aromatization is an enzyme found within fat tissue, and it takes androgen hormones like testosterone and it converts it into estrogen. Okay, so its job is a converter. Aromatization, aromatase, is a converter. It converts your androgen hormones into estrogen. So this can sound like a good thing, but it isn't actually such a good thing. Okay, the aromatization process converts your fat tissues, the hormones in there, into E1. It doesn't convert it into E2. And E1, estrone, is a much weaker estrogen signal, and it is associated with fat tissues and increases in body fat. So what happens is it kind of creates more fat tissue in your body and more fat storage in your tissue. Now, so we want to understand this. What, like, the body is producing more E1 when it senses E2 is no longer as present, and E1 is now being produced more. The problem with E1 is E1 comes with more fat production. So you're like, wait, but I don't want more fat production. But unfortunately, aromatization and E1 production creates more fat production and fat storage in your body. And this is the thing, is that this is the estrogen your body relies on when your ovarian production declines. So as you go into menopause and your ovarian or ovaries can no longer produce E2, your fat cells starts to produce more E1. And I just explained it isn't the best situation, but it's your body's way of trying to help you have more estrogen. Okay, and we're going to come back to this. Now, there is a third type of estrogen, which is estrol, which is E3. Okay, now this one you don't have to worry as much about. I just want you to understand estrol E3 is primarily during pregnancy. It plays a very minimal role in menopausal metabolism. When you are pregnant and all of that, estrol helps with, the uterus, supports the placenta, and prepares the body for delivery. Okay, so we don't need to worry as much because this is not a group that is getting ready to be pregnant. I think most of you are over that stage, so we don't need to talk about estrol. Those of who, if this was a fitness group on women in their 30s, estrol would play a very important role. But our biggest focus is going to be on E2 and E1. And so the best way I want you to understand the three types of estrogen in your body is E2 is your metabolic estrogen. This is the estrogen you want, the best type. E1 is your fat-derived estrogen. This is the one you don't really want, but your body is producing more of it in menopause. And an E3 is your pregnancy support estrogen, which doesn't apply to most of you, maybe only Oshone on here. Okay, so it doesn't really apply to most people. So we're going to focus on E2 and E1. Okay, so the biggest change in menopause is understanding the shift in dominance between E2 to E1, meaning your body shifts from producing estradiol E2 to E1 estrone, which means it shifts from an ovarian-based estrogen production to a fat-based estrogen production. So why is this important? Okay, everyone that's listening, 19 eyeballs, is because this connects highly to why you, all the ladies on here, 90 to 95% of the women we talk to struggle with weight gain, with belly fat, and all of this because of this situation of estrogen. Okay, and a lot of you already said, I do struggle with belly fat, all this type of stuff. Okay, so what we want to understand is the loss of E2, so meaning your ovaries as it declines and the production of E2 with estradiol leads to reduced insulin sensitivity. Your body cannot respond as well to insulin which connects to you cannot respond as well to the foods you eat, particularly carbs, which we're going to talk about later in terms of solutions. In terms of carbs, it cannot respond as well. E2's decline also indicates a reduced fat oxidation, meaning you also cannot burn off fat as fast. So those of you are like, why do I gain weight? Why do I suddenly have gained 10 pounds? I don't understand. The drop in E2 has caused a reduction of fat oxidation. The drop in E2 also causes an increase in fat storage. Why is this happening? Is because your body senses, right? It's like your whole body has a hormone signaling reception, or like it kind of is sensitive. It will see what the environment of your hormones in your body is. It senses that your body has very low estrogen or declining estrogen in your body. E2 is dropping off. So what it does is that it actually is starting to encourage more fat deposit. Because why? Because it is trying to get more estrogen in your system. And the way it understands how to produce more estrogen in your body is through aromatization. So it knows that it can convert your fats into E1. Now, your body is, unfortunately, you wish they could convert it to E2, but it's converting to E1. But your body is trying to produce more estrogen in your body to support it. So it's kind of going, okay, we are losing estrogen in our body. We do not have as much estrogen in our body. Therefore, we need to increase estrogen in the body. How are we going to do it? We are going to do this by putting on more fat in the body with various methods. Now, this is quite complicated without getting into it. I already indicated that there's a number of different things that can happen. For example, your body, your body's like metabolism drops, right? Because of the lowering of estrogen. So lower estrogen means more fat deposits into the midsection. Your thyroid connects with estrogen, so thyroid level drops, and again, it's like, okay, we put more fat on. So it's pushing more fat into the central adiposity, so into the center of your body, so that your body also can be like, okay, now I have more resources to convert to estrogen into E1. But more E1 does not improve metabolism. This is the problem. E2 improves metabolism, but E1 does not improve metabolism. So what happens is that your fat in your body, particularly in your midsection, no longer is just a storage. Okay, when you're younger, if you have a little bit of fat or whatever, 20s, 30, it's kind of like fat, like dormant storage. The problem, when this happens hormonally in your body, your fat becomes hormonally active. Okay, so all of you who struggle with fat in your midsection, this is not a dormant fat. As most of you already know this, because we've done lots of live on this. This is a metabolic, hormonally active fat. It's an endocrine system on itself. This is why it becomes extremely difficult to drop it, because it's a self-producing hormone system. But it is a self-producing hormone system on E1, the one you don't want. Okay? So this is why so many women find it so hard to lose belly fat. Okay? So this is first to understand the mechanism of this. Okay? So, like I said, after menopause, your body may store fat partly because fat becomes a source of estrogen. So, for those of you who are like, yeah, I'm more fat on my body, or I just notice more fat, just like everybody said here. And the reason is that it's thinking. Your body is like, it's my source of estrogen. That's why you see a lot of women as they age, it kind of seems like the body naturally becomes more storing fat, more thicker waistline. This is also why a lot of times people will have this like almost concept of like, oh, you're just getting older. Or you go see a doctor and they say, oh yeah, it's just part of aging, you know. And you see someone, like there is like a stereotype. It's not always true, but there's a stereotype where if you see a woman that's a little bit thicker, wider, they have a certain body type, they look like they're in their 50s, 60s, is because there's like that stereotypical way that they are thickening in the middle. And the truth is, there is actually that is happening, but it doesn't have to happen like that. I'm just explaining the mechanism of why this happens as you go into your 40s, 50s, 60s. Okay.
If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Listening on Spotify, tap that 5-star rating. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave a quick review. It really helps the show reach more women.
The belly fat pattern with a more dominant E1 pattern, so producing E1, is visceral fat will increase, central menopausal belly appears, and insulin resistance worsens. Now, a lot of women, including I think Yolanda, we had talked about it, is you're controlling certain things, but already she sent me some graphs and I took a look at it, and she still has indications of insulin resistance. The thing is, your tendency as you go into 40, 50, 60s is you are likely to become insulin resistant. Very highly likely because of this situation. Okay. So we want to understand how we can manage this better. But I'm also going to talk a little bit about estrogen muscle, and then we'll talk a little bit about how to manage this better. Okay. So E2, the good type, the estradiol that is existing in your body when you're younger, okay, supports muscles. So when you're younger, it's not so hard to build muscle and you feel like your body is more toned, it looks great, all of this. Why? Because E2 supports muscle growth. It enhances mTOR signaling, the signal that turns on muscle building. Okay, so this is E2, which is estradiol. Estradiol improves glucose uptake, meaning it helps you have better uptake of sugar into your body cells so that the body has more energy to use for muscle building instead of it staying in the bloodstream. If you're insulin resistant, then you have more likelihood of sugar staying in the bloodstream than going into your belly fat. If you're better insulin sensitive, like the body can uptake glucose better, you have better opportunity to build muscle. E2 supports better recovery and improves strength output. Okay, so E2 is the good hormone, is what you naturally have, and you could like not worry so much when you're younger. You never had to worry about so many things when you were younger. But after menopause, E2 drops, just like I mentioned, estradiol drops. And now protein synthesis drops, just like Kamiko said. Now, Kamiko obviously looks amazing because she's doing a lot of things right, which we will talk about later. But E2 drops, so muscle protein synthesis drops, and your recovery ability drops. And this is all connected to estradiol dropping off. Okay, so who here has problems building muscle? Put problems building muscle below. If you have problems building muscle and you're still going to the gym all the time or you're lifting all the time, it's not necessarily your fault, is that your hormone environment has changed. Okay, so your E2 dropped off, your protein synthesis has dropped off, your recovery ability has dropped off. And I'll use Kat as an example. Kat, if you're on here, but like Kat has been, she's going into menopause. And when I trained her in her late 40s, she could still recover relatively well. And now she had, in the past year, like she was on her own, doing her own thing again. But she had a lot of problems recovering. And her belly started increasing from cortisol, because if you cannot recover properly, your cortisol is going to dominate and you're going to start to increase belly fat with cortisol. And her injuries were starting to kind of increase all the time. And this is one of the biggest things I've been working with Kat on, who came back to work with me, is recovery, because she no longer has as high ability to recover with a reduction of E2. Okay, so this is to understand, like, again, anybody on here feel like they cannot build muscle as well, can't build muscle as well, that will, help me understand who here is having the same struggle. Now, so with E2 dropping off, you will have sarcopenia, which is common, losing muscle in your body. You will have lower metabolic rate and increased fat storage. So with the muscle dropping off, you're going to have poor metabolism and, again, more fat storage. So this is exactly the direction most menopausal women are going, is more fat storage, less muscle, slower metabolism, poor energy, etc., etc. So you can see where this is going. So you're not just gaining fat after 40, you're also losing kind of one of the main hormones, keeping your hormones there, keeping your muscles there. So many things are happening. Jill says, I cannot build muscle. Okay. And I mean, I've been coaching for almost 15 years now. And last 5 years is the most intensity in coaching women of this age. And it is almost across the board. Very rare I can see a woman can build very good muscle past 45. Kimiko is like amazing. Now, but she's done many things right. Obviously, I coached her and I know exactly her process. If you have not seen Kimiko's pictures or her live interview that we did, I would suggest you listen to that live. You can put Kimiko below, because she is 67 today. She turned 67 a week ago, I believe, or 2 weeks ago. And she built muscle at 66. And that is what helps you understand it's still possible. You have to have a lot of right things in place. So let's continue. Let's talk about the metabolic loop, okay? So the metabolic loop right now that happens in almost every one of you listening is this, okay? So E2, estradiol drops off. This drop off causes muscle to drop, okay? Muscle starts to decrease in your body. The muscle drop off then causes insulin resistance to rise, because with less muscle, your insulin sensitivity decreases. So you start to become more insulin resistant. With more insulin resistance, your fat increases because sugar and things remain in your bloodstream, okay? And it remains in your bloodstream, so there is more likely deposit in fat. So now there's increase in fat, and then therefore there is more production of E1, which is estrone. This is actually a cyclical cycle. I'm going to say it one more time, because for those of you who are listening or taking notes or trying to understand, I know a lot of people listen to me at the gym, working out, driving. It's kind of cool. But I'm going to say it one more time. This is a metabolic loop, okay? When E2 drops off, your estradiol drops. Your muscles drop as well. When your muscles drop as well, your insulin resistance rises. Your insulin resistance rises, your fat deposits rises, because again, the sugar stays in your bloodstream longer and it cannot go into the cell. So where does it go? Most likely into your belly fat. So fat rises. Now there's more fat in your body, and that more fat now causes more estrone, E1, in your body. Okay? So, but the problem with E1 is that it actually feeds more E1. Does that make sense? E1 causes your fat cells to be like, oh, okay, I have more estrone, and then I have more fat. Okay, more fat deposit means more production of E1, estrone, belly fat, central deposit in the belly. Okay, so this is all happening in a cyclical cycle, and this is why I will say, if we don't target a menopausal woman's hormonal situation, dropping belly fat is almost impossible. Okay, this is why we've been doing this so long. You can ask Oshone, you can ask Debbie, all my angels who work on my front end. We talk with everyone, and everybody tells us belly fat, I'm gaining something in the middle. I don't understand why. everybody says this, and it's so hard to lose. And it's even harder to lose if you don't understand the hormone pathways and the interactions of it. Because I did a live called the six belly fat shapes that indicates the type of hormone situation in your body. Now, the six types of belly fat shapes is an indication. Of course, the biggest main thing is to get tested on hormone levels, like Sandy Kessinger on here, which I did analysis of her hormone panel. But that is the most accurate. When we look at shapes, that's not as accurate, but it tells me things. So why am I bringing this up is because I'm explaining the feedback loop of estrogen in your body, correct? But if you're not careful and you do the wrong things and you start to complicate it, you're going to stack hormonal problems together. I'm going to give you an example. If you first don't deal with a cortisol induced belly, which is coming from high inflammation in the body, cortisol, food not being proper, inflammation in your body, you can start first with a cortisol induced belly. The problem is then you stack on like estrogen dominant belly because you are not eating properly, the gut system is poor, the what we call short chain fatty acids in your gut system with eating, with the fibers, with the different things are starting to be altered under cortisol induced situations. This causes then the estrogen dominance to come on top of the cortisol belly. Now we have a problem with two types of belly. And then a lot of women don't deal with it. They say like, oh, I'm just going to try it myself. I'm going to reduce eating this. I'm going to reduce eating carbs. I'm going to reduce. They try their own methods. And then they cause a third type of belly to fall on top of it, which is insulin resistant belly. Now, insulin resistant belly is one of the hardest type to get rid of, is the hardest, most difficult type of belly to get rid of. And the insulin resistant belly will fall on top of that because of these other two bellies not being addressed initially. Okay, so this is the situation. Like, yes, you're understanding the foundation of why your body is changing, why you are starting to get more belly fat, what's happening with estrogen. But if you don't deal with the first level of belly fat, then the next level, then the next level, or they start to compound on one another, hormonal belly or cortisol belly, or like not working out properly, and then compounding the types of belly shapes in there, or bloated belly because you're not eating right. This mixes all the different situation, and it's like you ever seen a switchboard where all the signals are malfunctioning? That's how a lot of women's bodies are. Okay, Jackie Bertrand, Tammy Linton, I think of those two because those two have the hardest type of belly to get rid of, with multiple bellies stacked on top of each other. So you want to be careful when you are trying to get rid of your belly fat. You are first and foremost thinking about hormones and how do I balance the hormones properly, not just about losing weight. Okay, so everyone that is listening here, I want you to put in the comment section hormone balance, and I'll indicate it again later, but hormone harmony. Okay, but hormone balance or hormone harmony. Don't just focus on trying to lose weight, because you're gonna make this switchboard on your body go a little bit haywire. Okay, this is the problem. Is I think a lot of women are not, at least in my perspective as a hormone specialist coach in the menopausal industry, is there's not enough focus in understanding that the real solution for menopausal women is actually targeting their hormones, not just eat less, eat more protein. They're connected, but like the focus is wrong because they're like, oh, if you eat more protein and go to the gym and build more muscle, then you're going to lose belly fat. Well, that's not true. If you eat less, that's not true. You're not going to fix the belly. You're not going to take a GLP patch and just fix the belly. This is not like people are focusing on the wrong intent. That is my message today, is like you need to understand the hormone signals that is causing the situation of why you have belly fat in the first place, and then we need to hit them at the right levels, right, at the right uh, what is causing the belly fat and what's being compounded. So for example, if you are somebody already who has sort of cortisol belly, but your estrogen dominance is super high because of the way you eat, we need to address those two things, and not just jump over and be like, okay, now I need to reduce carbs. Estrogen dominance is not about carbs. Insulin resistant belly is more about carbs. So what type of belly fat do you have, or shape? Okay, first is shape, because the shape indicates that. So if you're listening to this and you're like, I don't know what you're talking about, the 6 types of belly fat shapes, you can put belly fat shape or something, or live. Let's put belly fat shapes, and one of my angels can send you that live, because that's a powerful live to watch to understand the type of belly fat shape you have. So now that you understand this, you're probably thinking, okay, so she's telling me this, it sucks. Like, why is my body doing this? We're going to talk a little bit about the solution, okay? Because there is a solution to it. Because if there wasn't, you wouldn't see my clients have amazing results. You wouldn't see Leslie drop from this like 37-inch waist down to a 27-inch waist. Leslie Bennett. Again, if you have not seen her picture, you could put Leslie Bennett. She is already post-menopause. So in post-menopause, I can drop her from a 37-inch waist to a 27-inch waist, because I understand what we're going to talk about here. If I didn't, and the other solution is it's not impossible, because Kamiko proves it at 66, you can change and still build muscle. That's why I said you need to also pay attention to Kamiko and what she had done, and in her interview, what we talked about, right? So let's talk about the solution. So the goal is not to fix estrogen. Okay, all of you are like, what? So the goal is not to fix estrogen. Okay. What you must understand is once your ovary starts to stop functioning, what, as biologically nature, you cannot actually truly reverse it, right? We know this. You actually cannot truly reverse E2. But there are a number of things you can do to stand in place of E2. So we're going to talk about 3 areas, okay? 3 goals for you as a menopausal woman is you need to learn to improve insulin sensitivity. You need to rebuild muscle in your body, and you need to learn how to reduce visceral fat in your body. So listen carefully. It's not about fixing the estrogen. It's about using another mechanism to replace what E2 did. Okay? E2 is no longer going to be primarily dominant in your body. Now we must look at what other mechanistic things can we do to help your body function in almost the same way. So I said 3 things: improve insulin sensitivity, rebuild muscle, and reduce visceral fat. So like I said, after menopause, your E2 declines significantly, cannot be reversed naturally. So the ovaries are no longer responding to the hormone signals like FSH, LH, luteinizing hormones. These will no longer be there. Like, they're just dropping off, okay? But how you can help influence the situation in your body, I'm going to talk, I think, 5 or 6 points here. Number 1, we can increase your estrogen sensitivity, which is the receptor function. So even with lower E2 in your body can become more responsive. How do you make your body more responsive? This is the exciting part, okay? How do you make your body more responsive? You make your body more responsive to the existing estrogen by increasing muscles and metabolic tissues. So this is why one of the number 1 goals for all of you listening is you need to build more muscle in your body with proper strength training. Okay. Now, a positive part of why Kamiko is so successful is she has been training many years. Even when she came to me, she had many years of training. She has a good muscle base. The better muscle base you have on your body, the more sensitive your body will be to estrogen. So if you have 10 molecules of estrogen, whereas your body used to have 50, you cannot change E2 in your body anymore, but you can change the reception of your body. And the reception of your body comes from having more muscles in your body, more metabolically active tissue. Okay, makes sense? So, this is why I say to every woman, I have a term that I say is called MTP. Hear me say this all the time, especially if you follow my podcast. Menopausal training protocol. Not blowing things up the wazoo here. Menopausal training protocol is the specific way you must train as a menopausal woman to build muscle, push growth hormone and insulin growth factor up while dropping cortisol down, because we don't want cortisol super high. You need to train a specific way so that your body can actually have the best opportunity to build muscle under a lowered E2 system. Okay, under a lowered E2 system, we want to be careful of, let's say, spiking cortisol, because under an E2 suppressed system, cortisol going up is going to do what? What does cortisol do? If you followed Oshone's live the last couple weeks, cortisol causes more belly fat. You guys almost all know this. So if you train in a way where you cause more cortisol to rise and more belly fat to rise in your system, you are then suppressing your muscle building, right? So the MTP format is you must learn how to train in a way, and my workouts are not easy. Is this correct, Jane? Jane's like, are you trying to kill me? She did my workout. And Kat Wilson sent me a message and says, like, excuse me, Clarice, do you know what is the amount of these like leg leg exercises you're asking me to do, right? So it's not easy. I'm not saying that my workouts are easy, but there's a certain way I want you to do your workouts that is important for making the muscle build proper. You can be working out 5 times a week or 6 times a week and still not be building more muscle. You could just be exercising but not building muscle. So this is why I say that if you want to change the body's composition, you need to understand how to train at this age. More is not better. Harder is not better. Sweating more is not better. I want everyone to listen carefully to this and everyone on my podcast to hear this. When you think I need to train harder, I need to go to boot camps, I need to work out 6 days a week, I need to do this, I need to do all of these things, that may not be the right strategy for you as a menopausal woman. You need to think, what allows my body to actually build muscle? Because this is the first solution to actually your estrogen E2 decline. Okay, so everybody is listening. You guys understand this? And if you do, and you believe you need to understand better how to train your body, put MTP, menopausal training protocol. Put MTP, okay, menopausal training protocol. And I'm going to tell you one thing. I always say this to people. If you are having results, like you are rocking it, I think, I don't know if Vero's on here, but Vero's a competitor. She looks fantastic. I've seen her. She trains. She's 65 years old. She trains as a competitor. I don't really think she needs my help a whole lot. Maybe she struggles with some inflammation in her off season, but she builds muscle. She actually looks fantastic at 65. I don't think she needs to really listen to me. I'm honest about that. But if you are not building muscle at your age and you still struggle with belly fat, then I would say you should consider MTP, because that means the way you're training is not actually instigating muscle build and you're not helping your estrogen drop off, right? So I want you to put MTP below. This is just a moment of honesty with you. If you're rocking it at your age or 70 or 80, I go do it. That means you're doing some sort of formula right in your body. But if you're not, then you need to consider MTP.
If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Listening on Spotify, tap that 5-star rating. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please leave a quick review. It really helps the show reach more women.
Second thing, okay, so the solution to the E2 dropping off, okay, is helping making sure that you have, well, I kind of spoke about this, but making your muscle as the metabolic replacement. So this is more the concept of, you want to, estrogen previously was your metabolic engine. Okay, so think this: estrogen, E2, helped with your metabolic engine. E2 is gone. E2 went out the window, and it's the never returning hormone. Okay, it's gone. E2 is gone. So you must think, I need to now have a metabolic replacement. So muscles is your metabolic replacement. It will improve insulin sensitivity, increase glucose uptake, and reduce fat storage signal. So you want to, when your hormones drop off, you want to have better training protocols. I already spoke about this, but better training protocol. So the muscles will compensate for the E2. Okay. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is insulin control. Okay. So this is another solution. Okay. How do we help our bodies with this decrease of E2? Well, let's look at this kind of from a hormonal perspective. Lower E2 means higher insulin resistance, right? Because E2 kept your insulin sensitivity in place, but now E2 has dropped off, so insulin resistance rise, right? So how do you counteract this? So you counteract this by having better nutrition protocols, understanding better protein intake. I already said this, but resistance training, and also better proper carb timing. So this is really important because this directly affects your belly fat accumulation. Do you understand the distribution of protein to carbs, to the timing, and to its relation to your training? And I often talk about nutrition, and I talk about three areas. I say there's quality of food, quantity of food, and timing of food. But now I'm going to put the term, because we say MTP is menopausal training protocol. I want to term this now as MNP, which is menopausal nutrition protocol. MNP. And I want you to think about it this way. MNP is understanding how to eat in a way that replaces E2's effect. Okay, let me say that again. I want you to understand how to eat in a way that replaces the E2 effect in your body. What is the E2 effect again? E2 is that E2 helps with muscle building, helps with insulin sensitivity, it helps with building muscle. E2 helps with better uptake of carbs, everything that I mentioned. Okay, E2 is gone. So when I say MNP, what I'm saying is the way you need to understand nutrition. When I work with my clients in their transformation program, Meg and Jackie, although Jackie we need to meet because I know she's asking me about how to understand better measurements in her macros right now. But specifically, I'm working with someone on first lowering inflammation, quality of food, timing and distribution of nutrition. Meg, if you're on here, I just messaged you about the distribution of nutrition, and then macros, and then macro combinations. All the things I work with you with in transformation program has to do with MNP, menopausal nutrition protocol. If you can understand how your protein intake needs to be, how much, when, all this type of stuff, the carbs, where does it need to go? This is going to influence and replace E2. Does this make sense, everyone that's listening? It was going to replace E2 effect. We want to replace E2 effect. So we want to control insulin better is the second method of helping your drop belly fat and all of that. The next one, okay, is body fat levels. Body fat levels, okay? So remember that the problem with E2 dropping off is that E1 rises because of a process called aromatization. Aromatization happens within your fat tissues where it takes your androgen hormones and converts it to estrogen, but a less effective estrogen. It does not convert it to estradiol, it converts it to estrone, which is E1. But the problem with E1, as I said above, is it keeps body fat on you. Okay? So, what's the solution? The solution is we need to decrease the body fat in your body, in particular belly fat. This is what I say. This is what I coach. This is why there's so many lives on belly fat. Belly fat is a different beast on its own. You need to learn how to decrease belly fat specifically and target that area. If you can learn how to drop belly fat off your body, so this is another thing of why Kamiko is successful. Okay, Kamiko was successful because not only had she been training a long time with muscles, when she came to me, she had very little belly fat. She just had a little bit cortisol belly, but that's it. When you don't have high presence of belly fat, your body is going to respond better. This is what I'm saying. So if you're like, how do I help myself have better estrogen response or less E1 production? I don't want so much E1 production in the body. What I'm saying is then we need to decrease belly fat in the body. If you can learn how to decrease the belly fat in the body, you will have better hormone signal. Does this make sense? You will have better hormone signals in your body. So, but if you say, well, but how do I get rid of the belly fat because it's so complicated? And the answer to that was in my live, the 6 types of belly fat, because the answer is depends on which type of belly you have, right? The approach towards a cortisol belly or estrogen dominance belly or a thyroid belly or insulin resistant belly have slightly different strategies. Okay, so but the goal here I want you to understand is you must decrease belly fat if you want a better signaling in your body, and the better signaling is less E1, which is weird, right? Because if you think about it, you're like, but I want more estrogen in my body. My body is decreasing in estrogen. I want more estrogen, but yet you actually want less E1 because E1 is not E2. Does this make sense? Everyone tell me it makes sense. Tell me what you're learning. Tell me, is this fascinating? Tell me, what are you like, oh, I didn't know this. This is really cool. The interconnection and like how this all works. Like, tell me what you're learning. Yeah, put it in the comments below. I actually think it's super fascinating. I think this is stuff that you might never have understood, and now you understand. And when you understand, you have a better ability to target the solution, right? So this specific part I'm talking about is we need to decrease belly fat. Okay, and how you decrease belly fat? Honestly, I would say MNP and MTP, menopausal training protocol and menopausal nutrition protocol. And actually, I would say it the other way because actually nutrition has to come first. MNP, menopausal nutrition protocol, must come first and then supported by MTP because the nutrition is 70% of your results and then MTP. So MNP to MTP is what you can do to try to get your body to signal hormonally better, right? Luz says, I got it, but I'm wondering which estrogen is estrogen dominance. Yeah. So estrogen dominance is different because estrogen dominance is about estrogen being recycled back into your system. And if you kind of followed what I said, Luz, your E2 is not there anymore. It is produced in the ovarian factory. When you are menopausal, your ovaries stop producing E2. What's remaining in your body is likely E1. There might be very minor E2, but like E1. Now, E1 is already not a great estrogen. Now, in your digestive system, estrogen dominance comes from it being recycled in your system. If you have poor recycle, like as in it's taking old estrogen and pushing it back into your system, well, good luck. Even more E1 in your system, but like old estrogen that is causing more hormonal disruption. This is why I say that gut health is primary. Those of you who are doing my 14-day challenge, good job. Obviously this is the first step. It's just a teaser. Obviously, to change your entire system, you need to be in long-term programs that are multiple months, not just 14 days. But when you're doing a 14-day challenge, what you do is you start to change signals in your body in the gut system. And the gut system is what is so important for proper estrogen metabolism. Okay, so when we talk about estrogen dominance, your body is not estrogen recycling and metabolizing properly. If your body cannot get rid of estrogen properly, we're having a problem. So this is why gut health is super important. And for those of you who are listening, if you have belly fat and you feel like your gut isn't functioning very well, I want you to put gut health below. And that's why I say gut health is number one to get your system in place. Those of you who, there's some of you on here, I think Tasha, I can't remember who else. She just did it a month ago. I forget her name. But anyways, she also did a 21-day anti-inflammation program. That specifically is about your gut, right? You need to fix your gut system, right? So yes, put gut health if you want to fix that as well. Okay, so what's another solution? And this one is pretty, I feel is pretty self-explanatory, and Oshone did a couple lives on this. But it's understanding how to fix your lifestyle signals. Your lifestyle signals are sleep, stress, and kind of recovery processes, okay? So why is this part really important? Is because cortisol interacts with estrogen balance, right? Cortisol, like if estrogen is already decreasing, right? And so as estrogen is already decreasing, your cortisol is rising, okay? The stress hormone is rising. And so the higher your cortisol is in your system, your body cannot get rid of it. Previously, E2 is like the janitor, gets rid of cortisol really fast. Okay, E2 is, those janitors are mostly gone. So if you are having more cortisol in your system, your body cannot get rid of this cortisol as much anymore. And so this worsens cortisol's effect and poor recovery. So you want to be very careful about your sleep, about what kinds of stress is in your body. And stress comes in many ways. If you remember from Oshone's live, stress can be in your mindset. It could be in the way you eat. And when I say the way you eat, because obviously I coach a lot on this, is not only inflammatory markers, like the foods you eat, but also the way you eat, right? So if you are eating in a way where your eating is dominated by, let's say, too high fat, or it's dominated, I see this quite often, or dominated by like too low carbs, that still causes cortisol problems in your body, right? So cortisol is like the way you live your life and the stress response, and also your training. From your training, do you have proper rest and recovery protocols? One of my primary goals with Kat is her recovery process right now. And her program was very specific because she's my long-term client. So I know her body very well. And her specific program has multiple areas where I put very specific rest recovery protocols for her, because for her cortisol over the past year as she's gone into menopause is in a very dysregulated proportion. So for me, I need to really control her cortisol. That's one of my primary goals. She already understands macros, She already understands what inflames her body because she did my previous programs. But yet she still didn't understand how to control her cortisol system. And that's one of the reasons why she's again in transformation 2, is now we are really working on targeting cortisol. Okay, so if you're listening to this and you're like, I feel like I have a lot of cortisol or stress in my body, I'm not really understanding how to, you know, like rest recovery, what foods to eat, when to eat, all the whole protocol of controlling stress in your system, I want you to put cortisol below. Here's the maybe a light bulb moment for all of you, okay? The light bulb moment is you can understand macros, you can understand what inflames your body, and you can even understand how to train properly. But if you still have a poor understanding of cortisol control, then your hormones are still going to be. And this is where I often find a lot of my clients. There's a few clients I think about who are very well versed. They are trainers themselves, or they have been following me for a while, or they did a mini program of mine. They're well versed in areas of inflammation or other areas. They still are not very good with cortisol control. And that's the one area that stops their body from responding and puts their body in a lock hold. I know I spoke about this before. When your body is in a lock hold, nothing will shift. It's going to lock you down. And that often comes from cortisol not being controlled. Okay. So I want you to put cortisol there if you were like, I want to better understand lifestyle factors that really affect my body. Again, all of this is going in place of E2. Okay. Going in place of E2. So now what I want you to understand is what you cannot, like I explained what you can do to replace E2. What you cannot do naturally in understanding this is you cannot boost estrogen levels back to its youthful level. You cannot override ovarian decline. And you cannot rely on supplements to replace E2. Okay. So the answer is, because a lot of people will think, okay, I understand, Clarice, you're saying that estradiol is gone or is going to be gone. Yeah. So I want you to understand you really cannot really fully bring it back outside of the solutions I mentioned to you here. Okay. And the ones who say gut health, cortisol, MNP, NTP, these are solutions. Okay. So we will get in touch with you about these solutions. But yes, you cannot naturally increase back E2 in your system, as I said. But now the last section we're going to talk about is HRT, okay? Hormone replacement therapy. And if you are, again, if you enjoy this, like, please let me know. Please let me know what you're learning and tell someone about this or share this. When this live goes off, this link is not the link you send, it's what we repost as the replay. So when you come back and you see the replay, that's the one you can share with maybe your friends about this, okay? So hormone replacement therapy, okay? So this part, I want you to understand that hormone replacement therapy is a little bit of a tricky topic, and it's not about right or wrong, okay? I did a live called Hormone Therapy Yay or Nay. It's on my podcast. So if you want to listen to that, you could put hormone therapy below. It says yay or nay. I think what we need to understand is, why do you want to do HRT? Is it helpful? What is it helpful for? That's what I want you to understand. Okay, so it's not good or bad. It's not like one is better than the other, or like if you take HRT, it's not good. Nothing like that. It's just understanding why. Okay, so a lot of women will go, well, you're telling me that my estradiol E2 has dropped off, so why don't I just take estrogen and replace it? Okay, so can you restore estradiol E2? So the answer is yes, you can take HRT to replace E2, and it can help you with symptoms of maybe like hot flashes, sleep, mood, even support bone health. Okay. This can be helpful. Okay. But what a lot of women don't understand is that HRT does not automatically fix your metabolism. Even with HRT, muscle does not build without training. So just because you take HRT, it does not. And Kimiko said this in our interview. I remember she said it did not help her with a lot of things. It helped her with the symptoms. But HRT, it does not help you build muscles. If you don't know how to train, you do not have MTP protocols, you do not have MNP protocols, you don't understand how to eat, HRT doesn't really help you in that regard. HRT also does not help with insulin resistance so much. You still could be insulin resistant and take HRT, and it helps with your symptoms, like maybe hot flashes and brain fog and things like that. But it doesn't necessarily change your insulin resistance tendency unless you understand how to target insulin resistance. And it also, HRT doesn't actually help you drop belly fat. So HRT is not the magic pill, it's not the magic solution because it doesn't fix a lot of foundational things, but it does help with symptoms. So I'm not against it. I understand. And I understand that there can be, you know what, it's a hard transition. A lot of people tell me, like, oh my gosh, I feel so horrible. My symptoms, my hot flashes, my all of this. And you could take a little bit of, the estradiol, to help with the symptoms, but you still must understand the foundation of what to change. Just like Kimiko says, I have to understand how to build muscle. You also have to understand how to target insulin resistance, and you also have to understand how to properly lose belly fat. So this is another thing is Kat Wilson, when she came to me, she for a year and a half, she tried on her own. After she left my program, she did really well. She had amazing muscle. She was even on a lot of my testimonials. But her body was changing in menopause. And she did start on like low doses of estradiol and things like that, very low dose. But like she said to me, I still was gaining weight. I still had belly fat and it was not going away. And she was like, what is wrong? Like, I don't understand. And she told me that even then, yes, taking a little HRT helped with the symptoms, but it didn't change the fact that she was gaining weight. It didn't change the fact that her belly fat was still there. It didn't change that she was still at a plateau. Because the real solution behind what Kat needed, as that's what I'm working with her on, is cortisol control. HRT doesn't necessarily fully understand how to manage the cortisol control or how to target the belly fat at a certain level. Okay. So with everything I'm saying is this, okay? You can't out hormone a poor metabolism, meaning you can't just add hormone and be like, this will fix the problem. This is what I want all of you to understand is you need to go to the root level to actually fix a lot of these issues. And the root level is hormone harmony, hormone balance, as I said above. If you can understand how to hit your body, that's why Sandy Kissinger, if you're still on here, I told her to go get her hormone panels. I told her specifically what things I want to see. And then I analyzed a little bit of the things that I'm seeing in there, because in the end, if whatever she tells me, if her hormones are all off, which she already knows some of it is off, we need to fix the hormone balance, right? And Sandy, if you're on here, we've been talking about this. So for everyone that is listening, like Angela, June, Jill, I see all of these things about, yes, I see my belly is still there, still don't feel like I'm myself, I feel off. The last thing I just want you to think about is that you can never bring back your E2, your estradiol. You'll never bring it back, but you can do many things to rebalance your hormones with the things I said above. And that's why the focus must be on hormone balance. You want to find an approach that looks at hormones and deals with it from a hormone perspective. This is really the reason why I would say, like, again, Jackie is seeing changes in her insulin resistant belly, Tammy Linton, Leslie Bennett had a full transformation. That's why she's such a good example, right? Because she was an estrogen dominant belly and as well as a cortisol belly. And why? Because all of these women who have had transformation is about hormone balance. It wasn't about eating less. It wasn't about just learning macros. It wasn't just about learning how to work out better. It's the entire system of hormone balance. Okay. So if you are listening and you haven't put it, if you have put it, then that's great. But if you have not put it, then put hormone balance, hormone harmony. That is the solution to actually dropping your belly fat for good and actually changing your body composition from less fat to more muscles. And it is 100% possible at any age. You can do it at any age because, again, Kamiko proves it at 66, 67, you can completely change your body to be super lean, super flat belly, good muscle composition, and not ever have this belly coming back to you. But if you never understand this hormone approach, you're going to always cycle. You know why? Because one, you're going to be like, oh, okay, so I learned this, I'm going to go do macros. That's great. You go do macros, but you don't understand the hormone balance. You're still going to regain it eventually. You go and learn and you get a good program of some sort of MTP protocol, but you don't understand how to rebalance your hormones in other areas, you're still going to find yourself struggling with it coming back. If you want to have a permanent change in your body, like an actual permanent solution to knowing, like, how do I change my body back to when I was like in my 20s? I have like Cindy Hutchinson and all of these women who have come to me in their 60s who are like better and more fit than when they were in their 20s, is because we change what happened in their E2. Okay, in E2, your estradiol is doing all the work for you in your 20s and 30s. In your 40s, 50s, and 60s and 70s, your E2 is not functioning. So what I'm saying is I then teach you the method behind replacing E2 function with everything else. Everything else is going to replace E2 function, right? So that's why the hormone harmony, exactly. Oshone says holistic approach is the most effective and sustainable. And so hopefully you guys all understand this and you took away a lot of value to this. And like I said, if you have better muscle in your body, you have better nutrition protocols and better metabolic health, those three areas will replace E2 function. Okay. So when you think about it for yourself, I know a lot of you said hormone harmony is the key, but for yourself, if you think about it, like, what are you missing the most? Like, are you missing understanding muscles, how to build muscle? Are you missing nutrition protocol? Like, I don't understand how to properly get my nutrition on place. Or are you missing like understanding metabolic health? Like, really, it's hormone harmony, the metabolism, how everything is functioning together, right? What are you missing in each area? And June says here, let me see. I dream of being even more fit than I was in my 20s. And June, you know what, is 100% possible because I have coached so many women who is more fit than when they were 20, 30s. They have more muscle. Marilyn Saw, I wish she was on here. She says she looks better now than when she was in her 20, 30s. She's 65 now. But when she did my program, she was 63. And she tells me she looks better than when she was in her 20s and 30s. So it is 100% possible, June. Okay, so in closing, your body is not broken after 40. It is adapting to a new hormonal environment. And when you understand that shift, you can start working with your body and not against your body. So the goal is to work with your body, not against your body. Okay, so those of you who are in my 14-day challenge, keep going. We're cheering for you. Make sure you try. If you're my clients and doing it just for fun, you don't need to come to the implementation workshop, but I really strongly encourage you to come to the implementation workshop in the 14-day challenge. If you're not part of the challenge and you want to do a future challenge, because we have another big one coming down end of April, I believe. So if you want to do a next challenge, put challenge below and we can mark you down for that. And hopefully you enjoyed this live. Yes, I thought this was I thought this would really give a lot of really cool insight to all of you for your body. And if you enjoyed it, put it below. And I will see you next week. And I would say in Spanish, hasta luego, which is see you later. See you later. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Fierce and Fit Mentor podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit the follow button on Spotify, subscribe on YouTube, or wherever you're listening so you never miss an episode. If something in this episode resonated with you, please leave a review or share it with a friend who'd love it too. Your support means the world and helps us reach more amazing women like you. Until next time, stay fierce, stay fit, and let's keep building your most powerful self.